Thanks for coming here, being here today. I'm the internal auditor. I work with, I work in the Rockford Public School District. I work in the legal department. My name's Roman Gray, and I really don't work directly with the information we'll be covering today, but I do work a bit with Amy in simply working with different problems that may arise or questions that have to do with procedures that should be followed. So we're working together. She's asked me to come and help her with this workshop today, just to discuss some of the basics for how to operate and manage and oversee your PTO organization. So I'm Roman Gray, I work in legal, and I'm the internal auditor, but I understand I don't really hold jurisdiction over you as PTO volunteers, because I work on the school side. However, I'm just here to provide a little bit of help, and this is Amy Ekstrom.
I'm with the Family and Community Engagement Department. So, and then if we could have Maureen, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself really quick?
Sure. Hi, I am Maureen Hirschman. I'm the Family and Community Engagement Coordinator. And together, Amy and I make up the Family and Community Engagement Department.
Yes. Just want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Nishika Simkins. I'm Deputy General Counsel for the district, working the legal department with the enrollment.
And if we can just go ahead and everyone just go around and just state your name and the school that you are currently affiliated with PTO.
I'm Juana Evans, and I'm with Spring Creek. I'm Melissa Clark, and I'm with Marshall Middle School.
Lindsay Crom, Marshall Middle, and Spring Creek.
Emma Hunt, Marshall Middle School.
Kara Stone, Gregory Elementary. Emma Gibson, Lewis Lemon. Marsha Riches, Whitehead.
Beverly Evans, McIntosh.
Darcy Ann Fairview.
Welcome. Do you want to just go ahead and sign in over here for us, please? Grab a PowerPoint. And in case anyone does need to use the restroom, please feel free to get up and use the restroom. It's right here. Down the Star College. If I got a flashlight, I did. But actually, I'll turn the light.
That looks like a secret passage to me. I'd probably be scared to go in there.
If I came out wearing a unicorn head or something like that, that might be really scary. Somebody might have to go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just get started. So if everyone just would please go ahead and open up their folder, and on the left-hand side of your folder, you're going to find Board Policy 8.90, and it says Community Relations, Parent Organization Booster Clubs, and it looks like this. Okay. So we're going to go over this really quick, just so that everyone understands kind of what Board Policy 8.90 is. And I'm going to kind of let Roman kind of take off on that one.
And actually, this policy, you can take the time to read it yourself. We don't need to go into a great level of detail. It's just that in working with the school district, being a PTO organization, you certainly are your own organization, and you have your own bylaws, and you have your own guidance and leadership. But in order to operate in conjunction with the school district and take on the name of a school and use logos and things like that, there's going to be a minimum level of compliance, or let's say maybe an initial agreement that you agree that you'll follow certain guidelines. Rather than read everything off to you.
If you want to go ahead and then pull out PTO Booster Club bylaw review form, which is on the left-hand side of your packet. This is, and if you turn it over or you flip it over, this is kind of the agreement that we ask for our PTO president and vice presidents to sign, and it basically just acknowledges that you've read over Board Policy 8.90 and that you will be in compliance with the board policy. And you can go ahead now.
So the the policy itself is that you're going to have bylaws. That's number one, and we're back on the Board Policy 8.90 sheet. A little hard to see from up here, but the actual board policy. This is printed out from the district website on board policy, and being 8.90 will be in the 800 section of the board policy online. So number one, you'll have bylaws. Number two, you'll have a commitment to adhere to all board policies and admin procedures. Number three, the membership is open and unrestricted. Number four, a statement that the district is not and will not be responsible for the organization of the club's business, debts, or conduct of its members. Number five, an agreement to maintain and protect its own finances. That one particularly is of interest to me because as internal auditor, I see the issues that happen in the schools where a fundraiser occurs and money gets mixed up, lost, or it's unaccounted for, and we need to be able to say as a school district that that's a PTO project, that's a PTO fundraiser. We didn't have any jurisdiction over how you handled those funds, but we also don't want to see that you raise $3,000 or $4,000 and then it all disappears because it wasn't well maintained, it wasn't well taken care of. So we'll talk a little bit more as we go with that. The other statement you can read through again, point number 6. Point number 7, a commitment to place the following statement in any advertisement, brochure, or solicitation for funds, stating that Rockford Public Schools is not the sponsor of the fundraising campaign, and then that this is a PTO that's doing this project. So once again, we want to make sure that we are separate and distinct entities. You can't operate, for example, off of the district's federal employer identification number, the FEIN. The PTO needs to have its own number. So if you open a bank account, you don't open it up in the name of the school, or with the district's FEIN number. It has to be opened up in the name of the PTO with the PTO's FEIN number. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any questions? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just take a break for a second because I know this is going to be overwhelming, but I need at least 4 volunteers to come on up for a second. I think we have to select you. Come on up. I just need a couple of volunteers to come on up. Go ahead and grab a balloon. Grab 2 balloons. I need another volunteer to come on up. They are hiding and eating. Well, I guess no other takers? Okay, I guess I'll do it. Oh, excellent. There you go. Okay, so I know what we're about to talk about is going to be a lot, but we want you to understand that we understand what you guys are talking about, and we know it's a lot to have to juggle. So Roman's going to be representing our PTOs. So go ahead and just start handing him 1 balloon, and then he's going to start juggling them. And then name them off as you are.
Right.
And then just name
So
them.
I've got my responsibilities that I have to take care of in my life. I've got to follow the RPS guidelines.
We just kind of talked about it a little bit.
Then I've got my PTO requirements. I got to take care of that. And then I've got board policy.
And try to keep those up there, Roman.
I got wait,
Come on,
hold
don't
on.
let
I
them-
got 'em. And then I've got my job because I'm just a volunteer, and I've got my family. They're important too. And,
Come on, Roman, keep it
hold
going.
on, we're going here. And I got I'm supposed to follow these rules that the internal auditor wants me to follow. And do you ever feel like that? You ever feel like that? You're gonna. But so how do you manage all of that stuff? How do you keep it all together? It can get overwhelming. And here I got all these other things. Thanks for taking care of my
This is your
family.
magic wand. I would like you to go ahead and pick up these balloons with this one. This represents Roman and I guess, for today. So go ahead and pick up the balloons one by one. Hopefully they'll stick.
You want me to whack them?
I don't know. Just pop them. Be done with it.
Uh-oh. So we've got
Here, go ahead. I'll help you. Try to get them all stuck on them.
So the idea is to give you a framework that will hold all these things together. so that you're not absolutely overwhelmed with the stuff. And so,
This is whatever else comes up.
Right.
yeah. So the goal is to give you enough of a structure and a framework that you can get your responsibilities taken care of. You know who you can go to when you have questions, and hopefully we can help you to manage. We can help you as you take care of all your responsibilities that may or may not be related to the PTO itself. But the PTO doesn't just become one more thing you're trying to juggle that you can't take care of because you're just too overwhelmed. We want to do as much as we can to help you keep things together here.
Thank you, volunteers. Yeah, we'll use those for next year. I'll have to retape it. Okay. No other questions on board policy 8.90?
You know, before we go any further too, if you do have anything written down on your Post-its that you want, make sure you keep writing or that you get those together, so that we do cover any questions that you might have, at least by the end of the session.
Okay, on the right-hand side of your folder at the very end, we have a cash handling policy here.
That page is taken out of the district's cash handling manual. That's what all of the finance techs and the principals use as they manage the finances and things that they deal with in the school itself. This is simply one page of that, page 2 of 81 pages. And if you notice at the bottom of the page, letter J, it states, money cannot be collected for the PTO by a district employee on district time. PTO activities must be sponsored by parents and can take place in district facilities during district time as long as district staff are not involved. PTO money cannot be kept in the building safe. So that means those are curves in the road that you just have to work with. So that may define the way that you can raise funds. You'd like to do a particular type of fundraiser, but you can't because you can't do it without, there's no way to collect the funds for that, let's say, without using teachers to help you collect the funds while they're at the schools. So you may have to be creative in the way that you do fundraisers. For example, a PTO may go to the principal of their school and say, we want to pay to have a drop box, a secure drop safe, put in the school so that we can have money dropped off by students, and it doesn't get given to the teachers, who then give it to the financial tech, who then put it in a drawer someplace or a safe, because down the road when half that money is gone and you don't know where it went, you don't know if the students ever brought it in, or if the teachers took it before it got to the finance tech, or if the finance tech took it, or if it got taken while it was in storage. So we've got, those are real genuine concerns. Yes?
So, part of the intuitive nature is like, you want to be a good steward of the funds. And the thought is, if I give it to a teacher or an administrator, then I'm making sure that I'm, trustworthy, I'm not doing anything wrong. But what you just said was we cannot do that. Those funds have to remain entirely apart from the district and the district's handling.
That is correct.
correct?
Yes.
So if we have a drop box where the student is putting the money directly into the drop box, you also recommend that maybe there be a log kept next to that so that that person might document they put X amount in on that date?
It depends, it kind of depends on the nature of the drop box, or if you're using a sealed envelope that's been signed and everything's written on it.
Okay, so they could write on the envelope.
Yes.
Student's
amount they're putting
name
in.
dropped on.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then that, if there were a drop box, I'm just giving you an idea. I'm not telling you what to do, but if there were a drop box, in my mind, I picture one of those big blue post office mailboxes, that type of a thing. Once things go in there, the principal's not going to have a key. You can't give him, as soon as he has a key and has access, he becomes questionable if money was missing. So the person with the key is going to be on the PTO side. Yes, ma'am.
We did that. We went and bought a box from Lowe's, just a mailbox, a white one. We put it next to the cubbies, put
Okay.
PTO in it, and we use that as a Dropbox. It's got key,
Okay,
cheap.
Okay.
It's on the wall, everyone can see it.
okay.
But
But-
it's working great.
Is it working well?
Yeah.
Good. We did have an issue last year where I was involved, and that's one of the reasons why this has been generated for me to be involved in this training today, is because we had I would think, what you would call a substantial amount of money that went unaccounted for. And it was a PTO identified fundraiser, but we don't know where the money went, and it touched so many different people. Every single one of those is now, I have to think of it could have been person A, B, C, or D in this process, and we'll never know. We don't want to put people under that kind of scrutiny if we can help it.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, I guess we'll just keep moving to the next one.
Okay.
There we go. So really quick, I know it was mentioned on here, PTO and Booster Club contact information. This is something that I send at the very beginning of the year as well as at the end of the year. So this will be coming out to you very soon. So that way then you can pass this information on to the next PTO president or president-elect. That way then we can make sure we keep in contact with all of your new officers. Okay. So I'll be sending this soon to everybody, and hopefully I will get it all back. But this is also a great way for me to look it over really quick and make sure that at least that there's a minimum of 4 people on your PTO. Okay. Yes.
Like in our case, our treasurer's moving, so we're voting this next week. So do I just send you an updated form then after the meeting?
Yep. Actually, what you can do is I'll just give you this, and you can just send me her information or just send me an email.
Okay.
And then I can update that for you. So great. Any questions? Okay, great. So if you want to go ahead on the right-hand side of your folder, very front, 5 smart financial controls. If you'd like to go ahead and just pull that pamphlet out, we're going to go ahead and go over this very briefly. Okay.
Okay, and quickly, believe it or not, I am going to let Amy talk here. My portion is not to take over the whole meeting here.
No.
But financial controls are what people consider, you might call them checks and balances. And they would be things like having 2 signers on a check, having 2 different people involved in a bank account. You never want to give all your money to somebody, have them put it in a bank account, and then tell you what it was spent on, and keep all the documents to themselves. You want to have a couple of different people involved so that people can't, what I call, you don't want them to be able to steal and conceal at the same time. Write that down. Steal and conceal. If someone has the ability to steal, and they will, because if anybody that holds on to the money could steal it. The problem is, they can't conceal it if you set things up right. So that they've had 2 different people sign it, it's on a log, it's been somehow accounted for in some other way. It may be up to you to determine what's the best way to keep the steal and the conceal parts broken up. The conceal side would be someone may have the ability to conceal information in the accounting records, but they don't have access to the money to actually steal it themselves. And so you've broken up that ability to do those 2 things at the same time and therefore steal money. Does that make sense? So requiring 2 signatures is just a way of breaking up authority for transactions, for writing checks, for approving the expenditure of funds. Again, that's a principle. 2 people involved in authorizing the writing of a check or the covering of an expense. Number 2, maintain a paper trail. I just talked with somebody just a couple days ago that told me that their not-for-profit little organization, nobody's got any records for what they spent their money on. So they've got a checkbook that shows that they spent a certain amount of money and they wrote 40 checks. They have no documents that show there's no receipts. So there's a check written to Lowe's, but you just have to take somebody's word for what it was for. Well, you need to have documentation that matches that. So if you're going to write a check, that there should be a receipt in a file someplace that you could pull that would say, oh, this stuff at Lowe's was for an activity. It wasn't to buy this guy, a new refrigerator. So maintaining the paper trail.
And it also when you're at your PTO meetings or your board meetings, make sure it's in your minutes. Because that's another way you can go back and you can maintain that paper trail of what you approved. Okay.
Reporting monthly, number 3, that's in the same document on the financial controls. Simply just reporting to the board and doing it regularly. Do it monthly. Don't let it all pile up and 9 months after the fact you're finally reporting to the board. Keep your accounts short there. Your account for holding, for being transparent, be transparent as soon as you can.
And we'll show you some documents towards the end of our presentation that what they can look like and where you can access those.
Number 4, reconcile monthly. You need to reconcile your bank account with your records for that bank account. What that means is you'll have an Excel spreadsheet, or you'll have a checkbook register somehow. If you've got a lot of transactions, you might have QuickBooks that would take care of it. QuickBooks would say that you have X amount of dollars in the bank. You want to be able to go and say, as of the same day at the end of the month, that the bank says you have this much, QuickBooks says I have this much, I need to make sure those two match. There may be some differences because you've got a check that hasn't hit the bank yet, because there's a deposit that hasn't hit the bank yet, because there's a bank service charge that came out of your bank account but you haven't recorded it in your QuickBooks yet. So on a monthly basis, you should be doing it, your treasurer should be doing what you call a bank reconciliation. So that's a pretty important tool. Number 5.
Can I add something really quick? When I sat as the community VP for Junior League of Rockford, my job as the community VP was to oversee the 2 treasurers and the president. So instead of they receiving the bank statements, they came to me first. And then I would hold on to last month's and then look at this month's, review it, and if any questions if I saw anything that I didn't understand or didn't know why that certain expenditure happened, I would bring it up at the next board meeting. It was just another way to oversee everyone that had nothing to do with any of the finances. So that's just another suggestion. So if you have your PTO president and your treasurer, you could ask another person on your board to be that overseer of those 2, to look over those bank statements.
The number 5, and this is our last point here, is the conducting of an annual audit. An audit can mean a lot of different things. In this context, it does not mean that you're going to pay for a CPA firm to come in and do an audit and conduct official licensed testing. An audit may simply be that you have a business professional come and look through your books and look through your records, look at the checks that were written, see that the documentation exists, see that people are actually breaking up the duties so that one person doesn't have the ability to get themselves in trouble or lay a hand to money that doesn't belong to them. So that concept of an internal audit of an annual audit is that at the end of the year that you'll have somebody come and look at those documents. It may be someone the board agrees would be a good person to look at it. I'm not volunteering to do it. I don't want to do it. I probably would turn it down. But somebody that has a job doing the kind of things I do, or somebody that works in the financial world that would have an idea to give some basic assurance that this operation is being conducted properly.
Any questions? Okay. Let's go on to the next one. Protect your parent group from embezzlement. You like to go ahead and pull out the next article. And just so you all know, all of these articles are all on the PTO Today website, and you have access to all of these articles that we were able to pull from just by even using the PTO Today Plus membership that the district has purchased for all of our PTOs. So you can use that Plus membership code, and I'll make sure that you have that. Actually, you do have it in your folder, that you have access to all of these documents and templates, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and go over protecting your group. And I'll let Roman take that over.
And once again, I don't want to bury you in the details, but I do just want you to be aware of the kind of things that can happen. Again, the same conversation that I had with somebody about their not-for-profit group a few days ago identified right away some things that may be going on in that group where donations are coming in and people are getting recognized as having donated $1,000 or $500 to the cause, and they get their name in lights, they get their name on the website, or they get their name in the bulletin that they donated $1,000. Well, if you take the same person and let them receive $1,000 in a check or a cash, and you also have that same person putting those donors on the website, that person, and nobody's comparing to see how much money goes into the bank account, that conceivably the person that takes that money in can say, I'm going to put that in my pocket. I'm going to give them their public exposure as being a gold level donor. But we're not, I'm going to keep the money. And you say, well, Roman, how are people going to take that check and deposit that check? There are a lot of ways. If you knew the things that I knew, you wouldn't write checks, because it is so easy for people to take the ink off of checks and rewrite them to someone else. Very, very easy. And you can figure it out on YouTube. I mean, in 2 minutes, you can learn how to do that. So you want to have, we just need to be aware of someone, if we supposedly received if we have 5 gold donors and the donors give $1,000 apiece, did we get $5,000 in our bank account? Is anybody even checking to verify or to even eyeball it and see if it looks right? Okay, so safeguarding your money. Let's just go real quick here. I think I'm on page 2. Don't use credit and debit cards. They can be a problem because it's one more thing to have to review. If you're just paying one bill a month on a credit card, and there's a multitude of transactions that are going through that credit card, then somebody's got to review those transactions. Once again, you have to weigh it out. Is it more effective for us to use a credit card or a debit card? It may be, but you've got to keep the potential problems in mind. Require reimbursement forms. That people are getting, that people are not just getting checks at random willy-nilly from the treasurer, that there's some kind of a form that they've signed that has a receipt taped to it for the thing they're getting reimbursed for. Don't have a petty cash fund. It's a good idea not to have a petty cash fund. Require 2 signatures on checks. Review the bank statements at board meetings. Chances are you're only going to have a handful of transactions on your bank statement. Just go over to the board meeting and let people ask questions right then and there. I worked in some place where a person committed a hefty fraud, and they committed that fraud by falsifying documents. Believe it or not, a professional with a $100,000 a year job was taking bank documents and getting them directly from the bank, whiting things out, photocopying it, putting something else in that spot, photocopying it again, and then saying, here's the invoice, here's the document. And nobody knew that these were falsified. So remember, those types of things can happen. If you're talking about bank statements, maybe it's better, like Amy said, to have one person receive the bank statement and take it that doesn't have any financial duties, because Amy's not going to be giving a false bank statement. She has nothing to hide. Where someone else that could have something to hide may conceal their theft by altering that document. Reviewing the bank statements, there it is right there. Enlist someone other than the president and the treasurer to receive the mailed statements. So that's exactly what I was talking about. Count money from events as a group. Don't give somebody a bag of money and say, go off in that side room and close the door and count it and then come back and tell us how much was there. People do that sometimes.
I've seen it.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Deposit money from events right away. Look for opportunities to separate duties. Okay, steal and conceal, break them up. Be organized. It's easy. One of the signs of fraud is when I go in and I look at an accountant or someone who's doing some work in a department of school or any other organization, and their records are just a big wreck. That can be a sign that they've done it on purpose to commit fraud, or that fraud could occur and nobody would even realize it because things are such a mess. Review your records annually. Put your policies in writing. Be consistent. And so, again, this is hopefully just to get you aware of the kind of things that you need to keep in mind in the managing of the business of a PTO. Amy?
I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, you pretty much covered a lot of it, Roman. It's just do everything you can to keep your records clean. Transparency is the best rule of thumb, and just making sure that there's definitely some oversight. Any questions so far? I know this is a lot, so enjoy the candy.
Can I ask too, am I going too fast or being confusing? Or the information's flowing well? Okay.
I think you have the magic tool. There we go. Okay. So the next one is going to be PTO insurance. I put that also in your folder. So a lot of people might say, well, I've had a couple of PTOs who have called, do I need insurance? You don't need insurance, but I think it's in your best interest to have insurance, because if there is ever a fraudulent activity that happens, they can come after you as the PTO officers and come after your assets. So it's best to have that PTO insurance to safeguard yourself. For myself, when I was on a nonprofit organization, I wouldn't be on that PTO, on that board, unless I knew that there was insurance. Because in the event, because of the fact that we did so many large community events and handled lots of money, and anything could happen, anything liability-wise and stuff, I wanted to make sure that if something happened, we had insurance to protect ourselves. So it's not very expensive, but PTO today does offer it. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying look into it if you want to have insurance. And I think in some cases, I don't know, Kara, if you can probably answer this question. When you filed for 501c3, did they ask if you had insurance on your group? Okay. So, but it does show responsibility, and but it does protect you as officers. So it's just a safeguard. Any questions on that? So then the next one I think we're going to go into is the 501c3, which looks like this. And a 501c3 basically just recognizes you as a not-for-profit organization through the IRS. So when you get your EIN number at the bottom, you'll have like a little detachment at the bottom of it when you first get your EIN. But when you submit in your Form 1023, this is what gets submitted into the IRS, and then they will ask you other documents that you will need to file for being a 501c3 not-for-profit, which then means that you're just recognized as a not-for-profit. That doesn't automatically grant you tax exemption, though.
How many of you know what a Form 1023 is? Okay, so a handful. So there's a 1023, there's also a 1023EZ. The 1023 is 28 pages long. That's the one that you fill out if you're, the United Way. If you're a big organization, again, I don't know the details on those two documents. The 1023EZ is a 3-page form. It's a lot more abbreviated, and I would imagine that's a more likely candidate for your PTOs rather than the large long form. Any of that you need to look up for on the 501c3 side, which we'll talk about here in a minute, you can find that stuff on the internet. If you just go to Google, who's becoming our best friend everywhere we go, if you go into Google and you type IRS 1023 or Form 1023, it'll take you right there. There's other people that are searching for the same thing. They know as much as you do or less, and so they're looking for that form. And it seems intimidating at first. And you say, well, Roman, you're an accountant. Well, I am an accountant, but I didn't go to class in college on how to do a 1023 form for 501c3s. You just get more comfortable in looking on the internet to find the forms and then read your way through them. I would imagine that probably nearly all of you or all of you would be able to go through the form yourself and fill out the whole thing. So don't be intimidated by it. But the 1023 and the 1023EZ are those steps into becoming a 501c3, recognized as a group entity, not for profit, instead of as a bunch of people doing PTO activities, which is where you start getting more individual liability concerns. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so from the district's perspective, we don't encourage them one way or another to file for 501c3, because that would create ongoing obligations for them as a PTO, whether or not they need to file with the state continually every year, and with any
1023, the 990 tax form,
990?
the
the
990 tax.
990, the form, federal form
Mhm.
990. So we're not, as a district, making any recommendation with regard to whether or not you should apply for that 501c3 status.
Right.
Because of
Right.
those ongoing obligations and commitments on behalf of the organization.
Yes, those are things that to consider, and that's why you'll see the web pages on the pros and cons to becoming a 501c3, and then how you would pursue that, and that's what's been included in your packet.
And one of the nice things is that if you are a PTO who goes to those steps, you can actually say, for example, get a large tax deductible donation from a business or organization that they can then write off. So whether you're in need of books or supplies or whatever it may be, they may be more likely to do that with you because you're a recognized 501c3, and they can write that off on their taxes. So that's one of the benefits. And also, if you are a PTO who wants to write grants, that's another opportunity available for you as well. But as Ms. Williams said, it is not a requirement. It is not something we're saying you have to do. It's something that you have to take into consideration, because there is a lot of guidelines that you have to follow then afterwards in maintaining. And then the worst thing that would happen is if you get it all set up, but then years down the road they don't continue to maintain it, there's fees involved with you don't maintain. And those fees can be very hefty and could possibly even cause you to be audited. And so remember that. So that's where training comes in, where you want to make sure that people understand, especially your treasurers and your president-elect, that they understand the importance of maintaining those documents if you have. How many PTOs right now in this room are a 501c3? Okay. So just make sure you keep up with, I think pretty soon you should be getting those 990s in the mail. Don't just to the side. If you need help, there's accountants that you can contact, CPAs that you can call, and you can ask for assistance if you need any help with filling out any of those forms. And I don't think they're that, I haven't seen one, I haven't ever filled one out, but just contact, maybe you may even have a parent who's an accountant that might be able to help you fill it out as well. So
Yeah, once again, the 990 tax return, it's something you can follow and read your way through. And if you have access to the financial information of what your revenue was, how much money you brought in, and what your expenses were, and whether there were any paid employees, things like that in your group, a lot of that form, you may want to take your treasurer and let them take a look at it and decide if you need to have outside help or not. It's really not as terrifying as it sounds to go through and fill those forms out. It just takes a little bit of focus.
And then the next article that we have you looking at, which looks like this, is just another thing that you can read at your leisure. We're not going to read it. But just, it kind of goes through, why do you apply? What are the benefits? Again, what are the myths? All of that. And you can read all that on your own. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions so far? I don't know what you did.
I just moved it.
Okay. So the next one is actually going to say Kwame Raoul, which looks like this. This is the Illinois Attorney General. He's the new Attorney General now, no longer Lisa Madigan. On the front page of this, when you go onto the PTO today, and it gives you kind of everything that you need to do when you are filing for 501c3 status. PTOs, this is one of the state requirements for parent-teacher organizations, and there is a fee involved. I think it's like $10, $12, or $15. It's all listed on here. But basically, it's basically stating that if you don't meet all of the requirements to be exempt from having to register, pretty much it's set up to where everybody has to register. When I was reading this, because a lot of our PTOs don't turn over their funds to the school. You all maintain it in your PTO bank account. So this is required for PTOs to be registered with the Illinois Attorney General's office. And it's a pretty lengthy document to read. When I spoke, I think the last time we had a training, Craig Guglielmetti from Whippley was here, and he kind of explained this and brought a lot of this to our attention for a lot of our PTOs. But that it basically stated that PTO should be registering with the Illinois Attorney General.
So
In
correct,
addition to the Secretary of State.
Yes. I know it's a lot. It's welcome to Illinois, everyone.
so Craig Guglielmetti was here at last year's training, and he works at Whippley, which is a CPA firm, and is, I know he's very busy at this time of year, but he has he's someone we we don't recommend necessarily that you go to any one or another person,
Or endorse
but
him.
we don't endorse him, but that he's someone that's made himself available in these to help PTOs with these forms and requirements.
And he's worked with our district as well as all our PTOs, and I do have his business cards because he couldn't be here today. But you are welcome to take one of his business cards and contact him, and if you have any questions, and set up an appointment with him.
Yes. And yes, was another question?
No.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said register with the Attorney General, and what was the other one?
Secretary of State.
Okay.
And then determining on where you are with your financial activities with your PTO will determine which form you complete. So if you are a new organization, you're probably going to fill out the charitable organization form number 1, or depending if you are, you'll fill out number 2, but then if you have been a PTO longer than over a year, then you'll fill out CO2. And you have copies of all of these in your folder. Yes.
Is this every year? It needs to be filed?
I think you just have to renew every year.
You have to fill out the CO1 form every year.
Yeah.
So that would be good to put under a job description for the treasurer to run.
Yep. Put as what next steps to do. And they'll probably send you something. I know Carrie, you just recently went through. Have you received anything from them?
You
Yes.
receive a letter, and you have to do, in the beginning, you have to give them a lot of supporting documents, but then every year you have to fill out the CO1 form with a $15 check, I think, every year. In the beginning, we had to pay fines for back years.
Yeah.
If you weren't there.
That's for Secretary of State or for
That's for the,
State
That's for the
Attorney General.
Attorney General.
On the last page of this document that has Call Me Raul on the front, the last page it mentions, it shows you where to go to take care of the Secretary of State filing requirement. So
That's
for,
what we incorporated through.
yes, that's your annual corporate report, corporation report.
Yeah, on the very back page. I
I'm
think
sorry,
it has-
second to the last page. Wait a minute, let me find it.
This one?
No, it's not, it's the second page. It's the second
Okay, I was
page.
like, where are you?
It says, annual filing
Oh, yes.
requirements with other agencies, and then it tells about the corporate annual report with the Secretary of State. Oh, it is page 3, so it's, yes. I'm just having a terrible time.
So not page 2, page 3.
Yeah.
Any questions on that? I know it's a lot. I'll be sure everybody get their eyeballs back when they leave. So, because it is a lot. Okay, what's the next one? Sample conflict of interest policy. This should be something, and this is actually what this says. Here it is. The conflict of interest policy basically is so that it protects all of you. And it's basically stating, I remember being on Junior League, I had to sign one of these that I was not going to, recommend, any type of fundraiser or event or anything like that that was going to then personally, I was going to take any personal gain on it or anything. So conflict of interest is really important, even if you have like husband, wives, or sisters who may all be at the same school who want to be on the PTO. This is really helpful to have that conflict of interest, especially if you're working with fundraisers, especially if you know somebody. You want to make sure that they're not of any relation to you, because there could be a conflict of interest because if you're getting any funds back. And it is something that is required when you are filing, if you choose to go moving forward with the 501c3 status. They will ask that document be submitted with all the other forms. And this is something that you would want to have your PTOs your officers complete on a yearly basis. Okay. And this is just a template that I have in here, but if you go to the PTO today or you Google it, there's a lot of different sample documents that you can utilize. It's just make sure that you just have a conflict of interest policy. Any questions on that? Okay. Anything you want to add on that?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Just make sure, in the concept of conflict of interest, when in doubt, don't. When it comes to should people be doing this or that, in the last 2 days I've had 2 different situations brought to me where somebody's child works in a particular business field, and can we have that child, can we pay them to do something for our organization when their dad is the director, and it's just better to not do that. Okay, when you have doubts, when you have questions. What was the other thing? Someone said that there was a donor to the organization, or somebody who works high up in the organization was placing the business name of one of the directors as having been a donor when they really weren't, and they're going to give them that credit because they let, they're a volunteer, and I just think you just don't want to, if someone didn't pay to get their name in the bulletin, don't put their name in the bulletin, whether it's your company or anybody else's. Be very clear on your conflict of interest. Don't be doing anyone any favors, and when in doubt, just don't do it. Okay?
All right. So I can't do this one today. It's not doing it for me. There we go. Oh, okay. So movie licensing, which is the next one. We actually, our department earlier in the year was contacted by the Movie Licensing USA. They just happened to go onto our website and noticed as they were going through all the different schools and you all were listing your movie nights and stuff on your calendars, which is all great, they were like, oh, wait a minute, that school didn't fill out a form for that. I wonder what movie they're going to be showing, and I wonder what movie they're going to be showing. And they had a list of schools when they contacted our office, and they decided, well, we're going to start monitoring that, is basically what they said. So we did bring it to, so I just want you to know that just be careful, and just, if, again, when in doubt, just go ahead, fill out this one-time form, and then I think it covers you to be able to show those movies. Now with the after-school programs and stuff, that's different because they're under a different organization. They can show it because they've already purchased the movie licensing package and stuff, where for PTOs it's different. So if you're having a movie night and you're not charging, but you're offering concessions to kind of, offset the cost of the movie license, that's fine. Just make sure that you have that permit on hand in case, the movie police come in.
And to add to that, there is a different permit for viewing inside versus viewing outside too.
Yes.
They're two different.
They're two
permits.
different. So you can just go to their website and you can see it, and you can pick whichever one that it is that you're going to do. So we just want you guys to just be informed and spread the rest of the word to the rest of the PTOs and stuff. Any questions on that?
So the fee's just for once a year?
There's different types of
There's
fees.
different types of fees. I think it
Okay,
depends on the
okay.
movies. If you go on their website, they listed it all out, and they've broken it down based on the number of usages. They even I think you can even buy like a whole year package that covers you for the whole year. So just go on their website, check that out. If it's a one-time thing, then you would just utilize that one form and just do that. So just be careful. They're watching us. So okay. The next one is Facebook Guidelines Template for PTOs and PTAs. So yes, with us being, I know that there's a lot of PTOs that have Facebook pages out there, which is great. This is just a template to kind of help you set up some guidelines and policies. So that way then it's very clear not only for your officers but for your parents as well that you're going to set up some rules in order for, so that way then if you see, just like how we have a Facebook page, we have Kathy Bear who maintains our communications for that. We set up rules very quickly, and if there's anything going on, she monitors it, and if anybody's using any type of vulgar language or threatening other one or bullying anybody, you have that right to remove them, and it's clearly stated in your policy that you will do that. Okay, and then you can just document and let them know because of their use of language, their bullying or whatever, you set up the rules for that. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of information on the PTO Today website. And I can't remember who asked for that, but a PTO recently. Oh, I hope you found it helpful because they had a lot of different information. I hope you found it helpful.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, because we just want you to know, I mean, I think it's great to communicate. We know a lot of parents are communicating on social media nowadays, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Just set up some rules and policies. Set up some rules. That way then everybody knows the rules and then you're covering yourself. And you can even add that into your bylaws as well. And that could be a duty that maybe your secretary or somebody else can maintain. So, anything else? Okay, what's the next one? And then just reminder that as a PTO, you should have your, as Roman stated, you should all have your employee identification number or TIN number. You should always have bylaws on file. I am going to be sending out an email to all of our PTOs just to kind of let everybody know. We have some bylaws that are over 3 years old. We have some that are over 10 years old. So I'm going to be getting on these PTOs to just say, hey, please update your bylaws. Here are some suggestions, and I'm going to send them the link to the PTO today. Because it is a good idea to make sure that your bylaws are consistent to how you're operating today. I'm sure 10 years ago it was way different than how it is today, but it's also a good way to just make sure you yourself as your organization that you guys know how you operate your parent group. It's basically your rules, how you operate. And at any time you should always have and really at all your meetings you should have those available for any parents. So that way then if they ever question anything, whether it's, say the board decides that they're going to go ahead and spend X amount of dollars, and they may not know that in your bylaws that the board can spend X amount of dollars without it coming to the general membership. So, and that is duly noted on your board policies and procedures. So make sure that your bylaws are updated. Okay. Conflict of interest, we already talked about that already. That's just a good idea. Whether or not you're going to be a 501c3 or not, that's just a really good idea to have that on hand and have everybody do that. You should have a minimum of at least 4 PTO officers to be recognized as a legitimate PTO through RPS 205. You should have 4 officers. Your articles of incorporation, that's just basically just recognizing you as an LLC or an organization or a 501c3. And then also, again, you should also be registering with the Attorney General's office of Illinois Attorney General.
An EIN and a TIN are the same thing.
They are.
Your federal identification number.
And one thing I want to say is make sure that you keep a binder and keep lots of copies. So that way then you're maintaining good records. A lot of times I do keep a lot of the EIN numbers on hand, and it's amazing how many people will call me and go, I don't remember what our EIN number is. Amy, do you know what it is? And I do have a file that was collected many, many years ago, and I will give it to you, especially if you're going to be filing for 501c3, I will give it to you as long as I know that you are actually on the PTO. I'm not just going to give it to any old random parent who calls up and says, hey, I want their EIN number. So, no, I'll make sure that I check first to make sure that you are officially on their PTO. So, and then we already covered that. Everyone should be. And then where to apply for tax exempt status. You just, believe it or not, you have to go online. They don't really have any paper form, but you can look at it. But Kara, is this how you did it for yours, for the sales tax exempt for the state?
Yep, and you have to fill out like an essay explaining why they should approve you.
Okay. And all of this is listed on there, and it basically breaks it all down as far as what information they want you to submit when you are actually filing. Okay.
And don't do it in the name of Rockford Public Schools. Do it in the name of the PTO.
Yeah. And then we already talked about all that, so we're going to keep on going. But again, keeping good financial records, of all your forms, keep everything in a file. And then keep it at the school. Don't keep it at a friend's, in another officer's basement or anything like that. Make sure all the records pertaining to the PTO are kept at the school.
This is probably the only one we need to address.
And then just transitioning your successors, your co-treasurers, your treasurers, your PTO president. really taking that time to work with them, maybe even if you know in advance who they may be, depending on when you have your elections, let them shadow you. Work with them and make sure that they have access to you if they have any questions. Think about it. Put yourself in their shoes when you took it over, and then think about how easier it was for you when you had somebody there helping you. It's all about help. It's all about helping each other, okay? And then we talked about that already, so we can just keep going. PTO insurance we already covered. Any questions? I know it was a lot.
From the tip for me, when we applied for a 501c3 right after, you were in the database and we got bombarded with emails saying that it appeared as though it was the IRS, but it's not. It's a third-party company trying to solicit our business to maintain our records, to file our tax documents every year. So they're not.
So be careful.
Just be careful.
Yeah, so just be careful. I mean, I get a phone call every once in a while saying it's the IRS and I owe money and I need to call next month. And I just sit there and go, yeah, they're not calling me asking me for that. So, if you want to go ahead and just quickly pull out your PTO, your school PTO annual financial review guidelines really quick. It's this is just, and this was also on the PTO Today website. These are just templates. It looks like this, I'm sorry. And it's all stapled. And it should be on the left-hand side, or right-hand side. Yep, you got it. Good, you got it. Yep, that right there.
Should be on the right hand.
This is just a sample of what your budgets can look like, your financial activity report can look like. For those who maybe are new and starting out and aren't sure what it should look like, this is your financial activity report. But all of this stuff are all samples and documents. We even talked about deposit notices and slips, how you can even just have initials. Everybody's being documented. When the deposit slip comes back, you staple it to this and you file it away. So that way then you know that what that person went to the bank with is the same that they received at the bank. All keeping documentation. Okay. There's also what else is in here? All kinds of good stuff. Check request. If somebody's requesting a check for reimbursement, here you go. They have to fill this out. Maybe you set up some policy of when they have to fill this out in order for them to get reimbursed in a timely manner. Okay, maybe it's a month before the board meeting. There's also a cashier report, or I like to say a cashier box report. So that way then you can put exactly how much money was placed into the cashier box, and then if there was any deposits that were taken out of the box, and then what at the end of the night, what did you have left out of that one box, okay? And then you can even just come up, and then on the back side, if you go all the way to the end, and I know as a former PTO president, this was probably my least favorite job, was having to try to track down the parents of bounced checks. So, but there is a sample letter that you can type up that you can actually complete, and you can send home with the student, or you can, or if you see the parent, just say, listen, you know, we received this check, it bounced, and we really need you to reimburse us as quickly as possible if you want your fundraising items. Okay? And then, I know again, this was a lot of stuff, you guys. And then on the left-hand side of your folder, there was this. This lists the PTO Today Plus membership code that everybody has access to. Again, the district purchases the Plus membership, and then we just share it with all of you to have access to all of these templates. And there's a lot of helpful templates on that site. I also have my flash drive that has a lot of this information already on there. So if you have a flash drive here, I can go and quickly just download it to your flash drive and you'll have it. But at the beginning of the year, I did actually send a lot of you this pretty little RPS 205 flash drive that had all that information on there. But I can always go ahead and give you that information. It was sent to the schools, may have gotten lost. But if you would like it, I have it, and we can go ahead and get that to you. At the very beginning of the year, we had Sandra who came all the way from Florida. She came and she talked to all of our PTOs, parent engagement, and things of that nature, but she also wrote a book. This book outlines step-by-step everything from being a new PTO to being an existing PTO, step-by-step guide. And I have one here that I can give to each school if you do not receive one of these when you, if you weren't able to attend when Sandra came in the fall. And I think that does it. Any questions for us? Does anybody need any more candy? I know it was a lot, you guys. I remember when I went through this process as a PTO president and vice president over at Lincoln, when we did this, it was a lot. And I actually worked a lot with Araceli, who was the then treasurer over at Jefferson High School, and her and I were both doing it at the same time. And her and I sometimes would call each other up, or I would go to her house, or I would go and meet, and we would call the IRS at the same time, so that way then we were getting a 2-for-1. Because it seemed like it took forever to try to get a hold of the IRS when you're trying to get these questions answered. And one of the things that we used to say is, no, I don't want to call. I called like 2 days ago. They didn't seem really happy with me. And we all envisioned that they had like a little, picture, our name on it, and they were throwing darts at it, like, oh, she called again. Here she is. And I know it's a lot of work. I do. But it's always a lot of work in the front end. Maintaining your busiest part of your time is going to be beginning and end of year. But we're here to help and support and do whatever we can and provide whatever necessary resources that you guys need to make you successful. And we do appreciate everything that you do in our schools for supporting our teachers and our parents as well as our schools. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And please take more candy because I don't want to eat it. And there's a punching bag if you'd like to hit that on your way out, just in case. So I borrowed that from somebody's desk today. So, and I just have to hit this because it was just really fun. No! So I was hitting that a couple of times when somebody would bring me something, I'd be like, no. No. So bringing humor, trying to make it things like, but we do appreciate like everything that you guys do. And at any time you guys have any questions, Roman's available, I'm available, and I do have Craig's cards here if you guys do want to reach out to Craig as well. So, but thank you so much for everything.